Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Chiron Sextile or Trine, one's natal Jupiter. Now, this transit could manifest in physical and emotional wounds, helping and healing others, depleted self-esteem, and being in harmony with optimism, enthusiasm, and exuberance. And I'm going to elaborate and expound on that. This is not about being, exuberant or enthusiastic, regarding your own depleted self-worth, but it can be about being, optimistic, enthusiastic, and exuberant about dealing with that at this time. That you're not going to allow, feelings of negativity about yourself, conflict, with good feelings at this time and positivity. Now, what I want to say though, this transit, okay, the transit of Chiron and sextile, trine the natal Jupiter. Of course, it doesn't supplant or replace, your natal Chiron placement. Your natal Chiron placement is there for the entirety and duration of your life naturally. But the transit of the Chiron, when you have the sextile and trine aspect to natal Jupiter, can be beneficial during the time, of the transit. And another thing too, some of you may wonder, okay, what is the difference between, the sextile and trine in the conjunction aspect? Well, the thing about this is that the sextile and trine, those aspects are positive, they're auspicious aspects. They're harmonized. They made there's harmony, with those aspects, with the relationship in this case between the transit of Chiron and natal Jupiter. But it forms a good relationship between those astrological energies. But when you have the conjunction, okay, the conjunction is more, integrating, intensifying, and it's a strong concentration of those astrological energies. Now, the thing about, this in the conjunction also is a neutral aspect, and it has good and bad qualities. And you could have, the transit of Chiron, conjoining, the natal Jupiter. For example, let's say that makes a conjunction aspect to it. Some cases it might actually enlarge or exacerbate some kind of physical or emotional wound, but it could also be fortuitous and actually, trying to deal with it, or it can be, positive in helping and very exceptionally positive in helping and healing others. So you could have good and bad, energy with the conjunction, whereas the sextile and trine is more, of a positive bonding of the two astrological energies. Now, going back, as far as this transit goes, this could be a transit too, as well. That this is about, your, physical, emotional wounds. They can, people that are foreigners or people that are in Jupiterian professions such as religion or college teaching, publishing, those people may be beneficial to you in dealing with those issues at this point in time. And it can also be a time when this transit takes place. It's very positive, could be fortuitous for helping and healing others. If the transit Chiron is in Sagittarius, for example, it could simply be encouraging others to be more optimistic, being motivational, expanding their horizons as some examples, and maybe doing something with sports or the outdoors is something that can build how they feel about themselves and give positivity in that. Now, anatomically, speaking, Jupiter is connected, with the liver, the hips, the sciatic nerve, and pancreas, and even obesity. And this could be a time, if you have any of those issues that I just described that are, anatomically associated with Jupiter, this could be a very positive time for doing something about them. If you're going, say to a healer, a primary physician, or what have you, it could be the opportunity to make the appointment and being seen with, little delay or diversion or distraction. And it's also a time, and if you've been, again, if you've been like procrastinating or hesitating on those matters, this is the time where you could actually do that. It can be more just a general lucky period for actually doing something, with suffering in general, whether it's one of a psychological or emotional or physical nature at this time. And it also can be a time, since Jupiter is connected with long distance traveling abroad, it may be a time where these things can, taking a long trip, might help alleviate some suffering at this time that you're going through. If you have the natal Jupiter in Pisces, say, it could be a long distance sea voyage, or if the natal Jupiter is in the zodiac sign Cancer, it might be a long distance trip that might be to one's family, or it might be nostalgic. It might be having something to do with understanding some history, maybe of the country that you're actually going to. And this could also be a time, as far as expanding horizons, could be very positive as well. And something like that might be helping you and beneficial to you if you're dealing with some kind of weakness or ineptitude at the time of this transit. And it's really, it's a time as well where, since Jupiter is about publishing, it could be an opportune time to actually publish maybe some suffering you've gone through and how you're coping with it, even if it's just simply something that could be positive and beneficial, to somebody else out there. If the transit Chiron is in Aquarius, say, maybe there's some suffering, integrating with society or making friends, participating in group activities. At the time of this video, the transit Chiron is in Aries. In the time of the production of this video, transit Chiron is in Aries. It's going to be there here for some time. But anyway, it's a time where many people maybe have certain feelings of unworthiness, their identity. It could maybe be their place in the world. And this is a time, if you're having this transit, at the time of this video, again, transit Chiron being in Aries, this could be very fortuitous for dealing with it, because you're talking about a positive relationship being made from the transit of Chiron to the natal Jupiter, which is the planet of luck and fortune. Now, another thing too, and it's also a time where you're talking about Jupiter being associated with higher education. So what I describe as far as expanding horizons, that could apply and pertain to higher education as well. If you're dealing with any depleted self-worth, or self-esteem, and how you feel about yourself, taking a college course and even flourishing it especially can be positive for dealing with those issues at this time. And as I stated before, the expanding horizons, and it's also a time, if you're somebody that's religious and you're part of some religious congregation, those people that are involved in it, if there's prominent people in it, or there's friends, those people may be there more. It's more of an opportunity to get the assistance from those people to deal with any kind of suffering or weakness or ineptitude you might be dealing with, at this present time. So anyway, well, another way, this transit could be positive. It's could be positive for, helping and healing, which is Chiron. Others, it can be through just simply philosophy and your beliefs, which is Jupiter. Let's say, for example, if the natal Jupiter is in Aquarius, it could be, doing something. It could be philosophy that's tied into, activity on social networking, doing social networking, or through astrology. It could be expressing, altruism at this time. Selflessness, because a lot of times, you'd be surprised how, just doing, acts of kindness and benevolence for others can really help you and make you really actually feel good about yourself. Now, also too, this can be a time, if you're dealing, if there's issues with depleted self-esteem, which is Chiron, may be dealt with by doing something. It could even be sports related, which is Jupiter. Now, let's say, for example, if the natal Jupiter is in Aries, it could be combat sports, like karate or judo or wrestling or boxing as some examples, or it could be like football or hockey. Those are the more, volatile sports, you could say. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, now another thing too. This transit can be propitious to deal with suffering, which is Chiron, and being assisted, by foreigners. It could be in-laws of religious people, which is Jupiter. Now, let's say if the transit Chiron is in Taurus in the 11th house, it could be, the things that, suffering may be due to lack of persistence or stability, which is Taurus, in attempting to attain goals and aspirations, which is the 11th house. Now, also, too, at the time of this transit, physical and emotional trauma, which is Chiron, may be helped. It could simply be by expanding horizons, which is Jupiter. Let's say if the natal Jupiter is in Pisces, it can be doing something, some work by the water, could be working on docks, it could be doing something, fishing, for example. It might be, something relaxing like meditation or spirituality, as some examples are getting involved with the metaphysical, which includes astrology. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.